What is going on, people? Triple M back again with another video. I've returned after an eternity to talk about the shell-shocking and surprising news surrounding Mauricio Pochettino, who has supposedly been sacked as Chelsea manager. I think it's a very contentious topic, and I think there are people who are very strongly on either side of the coin when it comes to Mauricio Pochettino. And honestly, I've got to be real with you guys. I'm not sure which side I stand on this because I have strong reservations about Mauricio Pochettino as a manager. And if you've been a long-term viewer of the channel, you'll know that I'm not his biggest fan. But at the same time, it's very difficult for me to sit here and pretend like he is to take majority of the blame for his time at Chelsea. And I'll talk about why in this video. First, let's start with the positives, obviously, because Cole Palmer has been a sensation. He's been absolutely dazzling to watch this season for Chelsea. And what a mercurial footballer, a truly sensational talent. I believe he had 22 goals in the Premier League and 11 assists, which is truly remarkable. And then you had someone like Nicholas Jackson, who I think showed a lot of improvement, ending off the season with 14 goals and 5 assists, which if you'd have said that at the beginning of the season, I think most people would have laughed at you because he was so wasteful. I watched so many Chelsea games, obviously not all of them because I'm not a Chelsea fan, but I did watch a fair bit of Chelsea this season because I thought there was such an interesting team under Mauricio Pochettino with all these young players, you know, the Malo Gustos, the Maduekes, Cole Palmer, Jackson, etc., etc. Even in the midfield, talents like Enzo Fernandez and Moise Caicedo, and obviously Lavia, who hasn't really had too much to say due to injuries. I just thought, I looked at this Chelsea team and I thought there was so much to be excited about and there was so much interest and hope on the horizon for them, but it hasn't come to fruition. And even though they're sat 6th place, and even though they finished 5 points away from that 5th place spot with Spurs, and very close to the top 4, a lot closer than I thought they would be, it's still been a failure of a season, not just because of the Premier League season and how it started in the first 6 months, but also the Carabao Cup. I think people are letting that slip. Chelsea completely and utterly bottled that Carabao Cup because they had Liverpool on the ropes in that last 20 minutes of regulation time, and even in extra time, despite the fact that they sat back. I think they should have actually gone for it. I think that there was actually a game to be won there against Klopp's kids, right? So there's just so many things where you can look at and say that Chelsea have failed. How much of that is on Mauricio Pochettino? Let me know in the comments down below because I'm struggling. I don't really know. It's very difficult to judge a manager in their first season because the sample space is so small. I look at some of the decisions he's made. I mean, I remember him playing, who was it? I think it was Chilwell at left wing for one game. I can't remember who it was against specifically, but he's made some outrageous decisions this season. Some really, really head-scratching, eyebrow-raising, headache-inducing decisions where you're thinking to yourself, man, what are you doing? But equally, there's been a lot of games where Mauricio Pochettino hasn't been to blame. I think of the 3 Man City games that Chelsea played, those games were all so close. Even the one in the FA Cup when they got knocked out. There were so many opportunities for Jackson, Gallagher, etc. to score goals, and they just didn't. They missed chance after chance after chance, and despite being the better team on the balance of it in terms of the eye test, Man City were able to come away from those games with something. I believe the league game they played away at the Etihad ended in a draw. Chelsea should have definitely won that game, but again, they were so wasteful. And so you look at situations like that and you say, how much of that is on Mauricio Pochettino? It's just so difficult to judge. But again, you spend most of your season in the bottom half of the table at a big club like Chelsea, you're probably going to get the sack. And he hasn't helped himself in terms of his man management decision, in terms of his tactics, leaving Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez out to dry pretty much most of the season, right? There's so many games where you watch Chelsea and that midfield looks so isolated. You've got one player sitting deep and the other 2 bombing forward, and no real support structure for the player who's taking the ball off the back 4, because by the time they look up to try to play a pass, nobody's near them. Everybody's in the opposition half and they've got a sea of opposition shirts which they can't really penetrate unless they spam long balls, right? And so there were so many tactical issues with the way that Chelsea set up, and I feel like that's on Mauricio Pochettino 100%. It's just so difficult to put it all on him because I know that there are so many performances that Chelsea really should have won regardless of the manager's man management and the manager's substitutions. It just came down to individual quality, lack of experience with the squad being so young, etc., etc. But I feel like I've waffled on enough about this. Let me know, what do you think in the comments down below? Is this the right decision for Chelsea? Because I felt at the beginning of the season they had to get it right with Mauricio Pochettino, especially after spending £1 billion, right? You can't spend £1 billion and have such a massive clear out and then not deliver, especially after sacking 2 managers in Graham Potter and Thomas Tuchel, right? So this decision, it's not shocking from the point of view of like, has Mauricio Pochettino been bad? It's shocking when you look beyond Pochettino. You look at the situation with Potter, you look at the situation with Thomas Tuchel. You'd really think as a neutral or as a rival looking at Chelsea and taking all the emotions out of it, you'd really think that this is the guy they would have given time. This is the guy they would have stuck by regardless of results, because at some point you're going to need to take that gamble. At some point you're going to need to back a manager through the difficult times. At some point, you're going to have to bet on an individual and say, guys, we're giving this guy 3 years. Regardless of how you guys feel, regardless of how the world feels, we're going to back this manager and we're going to have a long-term plan. At some point, that needs to happen. You can't just keep having a revolving door of managers. And maybe Pochettino wasn't that guy. Fair enough. But whoever's next at Chelsea, I don't think they're going to get the level of backing they need. I don't think they're going to get the level of backing they deserve, because Chelsea fans will be Chelsea fans. They'll probably want their next manager out in the next 18 months. And that's the part for me that bothers me as a rival. I mean, obviously, as a United fan, I love the fact that Chelsea is struggling, but they finished above us, even with all this chaos, right? And so it's like, I can't really sit here and banter them when my team hasn't really been that good. All I can do is be objective and be fair and say that, you know what, I think it's a crazy decision. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. It's been your boy Triple M. Peace.